10 years ago, a young soldier walked through a ruined city until an older knight stopped him and took him to a place filled with corpses. The boy froze in terror, and the knight said grimly, "You see all these bodies? They were all killed by just 7 people, the ones they call the 7 deadly sins. If you ever hear they're near, run." Now, in the present, a cheerful boy runs a small tavern. His juice is amazing, but his food tastes awful, my friend. He has a talking pig named Hawk who helps clean the floor. While working, the boy overhears patrons gossiping about the 7 deadly sins. They say the group killed a holy knight in a horrifying way, and that their leader, Meliodas, is the most dangerous of them all. The tavern owner hears all this and seems unusually alert, almost like he knows them. Suddenly, a man bursts in, breathless with fear, claiming there's an armored knight outside talking about the sins. He insists the knight might be one of them. The crowd scoffs. They vanished 10 years ago, probably dead. But just then, the tavern door swings open, and the armored knight steps in. Everyone panics and runs, except the boy. He walks up to the knight, asking who he's looking for, but before he can finish, the knight collapses. His helmet falls off, revealing a beautiful girl. Is she a warrior or something more? The boy brings her in and treats her wounds, then gives her some food. As expected, it's terrible, but she starts crying softly, overwhelmed that someone cared enough to feed her. The boy gently asks, "Who are you looking for? And why were you wearing that armor?" With a trembling voice, she says, "I'm searching for the 7 deadly sins." Before she can explain more, there's a loud knock at the tavern door. Soldiers from the city. They're here to arrest the Iron Knight. Thinking quickly, the boy disguises Hawk in the armor to fool them, but the trick fails. Suddenly, the girl bolts out of the tavern and dashes into the woods. The soldiers chase her, but boom, Hawk jumps in and takes them down one by one, knocking the last one off a cliff like a boss. The boy follows the girl and catches up before she falls. "Why are you searching for the 7 deadly sins?" he asks. She answers with intensity, "The holy knights attacked the king, and if anyone can stop them, it's the 7 deadly sins." The boy warns her, "People say they're evil. They could kill you." But she shakes her head. "My father used to tell me stories about them. I know they're not villains. They were framed." As she speaks, the ground suddenly shatters beneath them. A blade slices through. A holy knight has arrived not to talk, but to kill the Iron Knight. It looks like this is the end, but the tavern boy saves everyone just in time. The holy knight glares, trying to figure out who the threat is, and then notices the girl's necklace. His eyes widen. "So, you're Princess Elizabeth?" he sneers. "What luck. I've always wanted to taste royal blood," Elizabeth runs, but the knight lunges at her. The boy jumps in, saving her once more. Tearfully, Elizabeth says, "I left the palace for the first time just to find the sins. I wore this heavy armor to hide my identity. Everyone's treated me horribly, except you. You're still protecting me, and I don't even know your name." The boy looks her in the eyes and says, "Meliodas. That's my name?" She gasps, stunned. Meanwhile, the wounded soldier Meliodas had rescued earlier wakes up and whispers to his comrade, "Don't provoke him. I saw the mark on his shoulder." That's him. The strongest of the sins. The holy knight, confused, attacks, but ends up injured, his eye bleeding. "How? I was sure I hit him with full power," he mutters. He stares closely at Meliodas and finally realizes, "How? You haven't aged a day." Just as the fight ends, Meliodas looks the holy knight dead in the eyes and calmly says, "So you finally recognize me." And before the knight can react, Meliodas strikes him with such force that the sound of bones cracking echoes through the air, sending the knight flying into the sky like a broken doll. And with that, it is confirmed. This is no ordinary man. He is the sin of wrath, Meliodas, the legendary leader of the 7 deadly sins. The next morning, Elizabeth is glowing with joy. After so much pain and fear, she has finally found one of the 7. Her heart drifts back to memories. Memories of the day the palace guards betrayed the king, the very moment they tried to imprison him. She remembers her father's trembling voice as he told her to run and search for the 7 deadly sins, the only ones who could save the kingdom. And so their journey continues, leading them into a small village where trouble has already begun. For just a few days earlier, a holy knight, angered when a child ruined his wine, thrust his sword into the ground and sealed the village's water source. The villagers gathered helplessly around the blade, trying with all their strength to pull it free, while scolding the foolish boy who had bragged about knowing the sins. Even as children pelted him with stones, Meliodas comforted him, asking if it was true, and the boy admitted it was a lie. Just then, 2 bandits barged in, threatening to raise the village tax tenfold if the sword wasn't removed by sunset. The boy rushed forward to try pulling it himself, soon joined by the men of the village, but no one could move it an inch. Then Meliodas casually stepped forward, gripped the blade, and in one smooth motion pulled it out. Water gushed once more, the villagers cheered in relief, and the terrified bandits fled. That night, they celebrated Meliodas, while Princess Elizabeth humbly served as a waitress. But far away in a castle, the holy knight who had sealed the water stared at the now missing sword. his suspicion confirmed. To test it, he charged a spear with power and hurled it across the sky toward the village. Meliodas sensed danger instantly, walked outside, caught it, and hurled it back with crushing force, destroying the castle itself. And so it was proven, the 7 deadly sins still lived. Knowing his cover was blown, Meliodas decided they must leave at once, heading toward the Forest of White Dreams, where one of his companions awaited, a jealous giant girl, who too was one of the 7 deadly sins. In the Forest of White Dreams, Meliodas and his companions wandered for 3 hours without finding a trace of anyone. But then, an embarrassing incident happened. Elizabeth realized her underwear was missing, yet she was too shy to say it out loud, so she forced herself to keep walking until they suddenly came across a group of identical little pigs. Meliodas thought it best not to waste words and simply smashed them all down with brute force, but things weren't so simple. More Elizabeths appeared around him, making it impossible to tell who was real, so he told them all to jump with all their strength, but the real Elizabeth, without her underwear, didn't dare to move, and that gave her away. In an instant, Meliodas struck down the fakes, who turned out to be forest imps, and the group chased them further inside. Soon, Meliodas casually handed Elizabeth back her underwear, exposing that he was the culprit all along. And while they bickered, they noticed a girl lying on the ground ahead. At first glance, she didn't look that small, and when the imps whispered that holy knights had invaded, she woke up at once, grabbed Meliodas in her hand, and called him captain. Both Hawk and Elizabeth recalled her name, Diane, the sin of envy. Seeing Hawk, Diane assumed Meliodas had brought her food, lit a fire, and began roasting him as if preparing a feast, sprinkling spices joyfully. When she learned Hawk wasn't food, her eyes turned to Elizabeth, and upon hearing she was traveling alone with Meliodas, Diane threw a jealous punch. Only after Meliodas explained the situation did Diane feel embarrassed, accept some money, and agree to join them in searching for the other sins. The happiest ones were the forest imps, who revealed that until now Diane had forced them to patrol the woods, exploiting their labor. Suddenly, thunderclouds gathered above, a lightning strike bound everyone, and word spread that the kingdom's strongest holy knight commander had been killed brutally. Just earlier, he had summoned the 7 deadly sins to meet him, so now, by a twist of fate, the crime was pinned on Meliodas and his companions. Before they could react, the knights of the kingdom surrounded them completely, and Meliodas ordered everyone to scatter and regroup when safe. His last words were, "I'm sorry, Captain." When he regained consciousness, he was lying in an underground cave, where he encountered Hawk again, only to be confronted by Gilthunder, a holy knight who never believed Meliodas and still considered them traitors. Everyone knew him. His father was the knight commander, and he had known Elizabeth since childhood. Meliodas himself had once sparred with him. Gilthunder asked Meliodas if he knew why all holy knights sought the sins' lives. Some wanted to punish traitors, some wanted to test themselves against legends, but his reason was neither. He sought vengeance for his father and to prove himself the strongest. Releasing Elizabeth from her bonds, he declared he was after the 7 deadly sins, so Meliodas should run while he could. But Elizabeth stood in front of Meliodas, refusing to let Gilthunder attack. Gilthunder then kicked Hawk away, forcing Elizabeth's attention toward him, and that gave Meliodas and Diane the chance to break free of their bindings easily. After a short exchange, Meliodas told Diane not to interfere, that he would face Gilthunder alone. They both drew their weapons, Gilthunder launching a storm of lightning strikes while Meliodas countered in a flash. In the next second, Gilthunder appeared behind him, swinging a heavy strike that Meliodas narrowly dodged. But when he rose again, Gilthunder was already there, blade raised high, cutting down without hesitation and coldly asking if Meliodas had any last words. Gravely wounded, Meliodas said he only wished to know the whereabouts of his comrades. Gilthunder replied that he knew of 2. Greed was imprisoned in Baste prison, and Sloth was already dead, his body lying in the necropolis. Armed with this information, Meliodas smirked, and Gilthunder realized too late he had been tricked. Furious, he raised his sword again, swinging down with a cry of "Farewell!" Meliodas echoed, "Farewell!" even as Elizabeth cried out, "Let him go!" Gilthunder sneered, "An angry woman is not welcome here, I already warned you." "Thank you, you're welcome. It's useless anyway." "What?" And then the proud captain of the 7 deadly sins was struck down by a holy knight's blade. Though severely wounded, he had gained precious intelligence. That Greed was locked away in Baste prison, and Sloth lay dead in the necropolis. Determined, Meliodas set his sights on Baste prison, but Elizabeth protested, more worried about his injuries. Meliodas reassured her, saying not to worry, he would be fine after some rest, but Elizabeth secretly followed and found him collapsed on the floor. Diane lifted him into her arms and rushed to town seeking a doctor, but the people fled at the sight of her towering figure. With no choice, she sent Elizabeth and Hawk to fetch help, and thankfully they found a doctor who treated Meliodas's wounds. Watching him recover, Diane resolved to go alone to the prison first, knowing that if he woke, he would drag his battered body there regardless, and this way he could focus on healing. To Diane, Meliodas was the only man she cared for, because only beside him did she feel like a little girl. She remembered the first time she left home and wandered alone, when she was scorned and called a monster by knights. Just as the soldiers prepared to attack her, Meliodas appeared, scolding them for bullying a girl, driving them off, and gently asking if she was scared. That was the first time in her life someone had spoken to her that way, and from then on she decided she would do anything for him. Yet as a giant she could not enter rooms or tend to him, so the only way she could care for him was to fight for him. Meanwhile, in Baste prison, the holy knights had already sensed the movements of Meliodas and his companions. The black clouds moved closer, but instead of rain, they turned into countless poisonous insects spitting venom that corroded everything in town, forcing people to flee in panic. And though everyone thought Diane could handle it, the giant girl's one weakness was bugs, and all this chaos was caused by one of the weird fangs. As the poison spread further and threatened Meliodas' side, Elizabeth ignored her own safety and rushed toward him, when suddenly, pillars of stone erupted from the ground and wiped out the swarm in an instant. Diane urged Elizabeth to take care of the captain and dashed alone toward the prison, while the others finally relaxed, seeing Meliodas unharmed. But then a chilling voice rang out in the room. The plan worked well, didn't it? And it was revealed that the medicine the doctor had given Meliodas wasn't an antidote but deadly poison that would prevent him from waking up. A figure appeared. It was another member of the weird fangs. Meanwhile, at the prison, the heavy gates were blasted open by a single kick and out stepped a man, Ban, the sin of greed. This scruffy man, imprisoned for 5 years, still bound in chains, broke free the moment he heard his captain was alive, tearing the chains from his own body and smashing the iron door to pieces. Just then, Jericho, a knight on patrol, spotted him and ordered him back inside, but when Ban ignored her, she attacked, only to leave him with a shaved head while his wounds vanished instantly. Shocked, Jericho realized his injuries healed completely, but Ban told her scars like the deep one on his neck from years ago were the only real wounds. He recalled how 12 years earlier, out of curiosity, he had tried to pull Meliodas' sword, only to be slashed deeply across the neck when the captain warned him not to anger him. Today, another fool had tried the same, and just as Meliodas rose to grab his sword, that knight panicked and ran off, while the doctor also used the chance to escape. Golgius, another of the weird fangs, rejoiced at his narrow escape, certain he would be dead if he had delayed. But when he turned, Meliodas and the others were already upon him, demanding to know who had ordered the kidnapping of Elizabeth and the broken sword. Though Golgius raised his hands as if surrendering, he secretly released hidden weapons, and the doctor rushed out begging for his daughter back, claiming he had poisoned Meliodas as promised. But in the next instant, Golgius appeared behind him and stabbed him through, sneering that he would meet his daughter in the next world. Elizabeth ran to the doctor's side, but another holy knight struck, and only Meliodas' quick defense saved her. Yet Golgius' ability to vanish left Meliodas unable to counter, forcing him to grab Elizabeth and retreat into an abandoned house. There, he casually scratched the floor, drawing Hawk's complaints. But when Golgius stepped unknowingly over the lines, he fell through, the truth exposed. He wasn't teleporting at all, only turning invisible. Meliodas raised his broken sword and attacked furiously, pressing him for answers, but Golgius fled once more. Moments later, Meliodas shattered a knight's armor with a single punch and knocked Golgius down, but the cunning foe again escaped before they could extract any truth. The group regrouped, planning to rescue the doctor's daughter, but along the way they encountered Diane. Hawk asked why she wasn't at the prison after defeating the bugs, but Diane, dazed, couldn't remember, saying she just felt dizzy. In that moment, Meliodas suddenly turned into a holy knight, while Hawk and Elizabeth vanished. Diane, muttering about defeating the knights, had clearly been put under control. Meliodas grabbed Elizabeth and ran, only to encounter two strangers in their path and had no choice but to take them along as they hid. He told them not to move and went ahead, only to come face to face with a giant knight. And in confusion, both he and Diane began battling each other fiercely, each mistaking the other as the enemy. Elizabeth's voice called out, snapping them momentarily back to their senses. But then Diane's eyes shifted again, and she launched into combat with Meliodas once more, the two clashing violently as a terrified child ran away. Elizabeth, determined to protect them all, declared she would not let anyone fall, when suddenly Gila, the whip-wielding insect woman, appeared. With one swing, she summoned swarms of poisonous insects from the trees, sending Hawk squealing in terror as they merged into a tornado that trapped the fleeing child. Without hesitation, Elizabeth walked into the storm, letting the insects slash at her body as she shielded the child with her own life, proving her vow to protect her kingdom's people. Because holy knights could not kill the princess, the storm was finally dispersed. Safe at last, Elizabeth gently asked the child if he was hurt, but before her eyes the child transformed into a holy knight, revealing it was all a trick. The knight grabbed her and kicked her savagely, hurling her broken body through the air, leaving Elizabeth bloodied and battered. and the knight grabbed Elizabeth with one hand and kicked her hard, sending her flying, her whole body injured as she struggled to stand, begging the knight to restore Meliodas and Diane. But instead, the knight struck her with his staff, knocking the princess meters away. Yet in that moment, he suddenly realized the bell on his staff was missing, and it turned out Elizabeth's real goal from the start was that bell, which made the furious knight charge at her, wanting to beat her down. But Meliodas had already woken up and blocked the attack in time, pushing the knight aside and then rushing to comfort the fainting Elizabeth. And when the knight was ignored, he immediately launched another strike, sending Meliodas flying with one swing and slamming her into a pit with a follow-up blow before grabbing and pounding her. And just then, their companions wanted to come help but were shocked to find Diane already standing behind them. And without hesitation, she gave the knight a brutal beating, while Meliodas' strike sent him straight back to prison. Then, Meliodas followed up with another uppercut that sent him flying. And still not stopping, she punched again and smashed the knight's armor to pieces, but his body had been tempered beyond the strength of armor, making it stronger than steel. And as the two clashed, it was like the fiercest arm wrestling I had ever seen. Their power shook and collapsed the entire castle, and at that very moment, Diane, upon learning her captain was alive, decided she had no reason to remain in prison anymore. So she pulled the iron nails from her body and stabbed them into the knight's chest. And soon, Meliodas and Diane arrived at the prison gates, putting Elizabeth into a bag before going inside to search for the doctor's daughter, only to find the vast prison completely empty, unaware that this was all part of Gilthunder's plan, who pulled out a magic orb and smashed it to the ground, filling the castle with smoke and instantly surrounding it with a powerful magical barrier that even a stone dragon could not destroy. And inside the prison, Meliodas and the others found the doctor's daughter and used a simple method to rescue her. But though they were reunited after so many years, the atmosphere felt strangely off, and Diane told Hawk not to worry, saying it was just a small matter. But sure enough, things were not so simple, because in the very next moment, Ban struck Meliodas hard, smashing her through several walls, and in return, Meliodas headbutted Ban and sent him flying too, leading directly into the most intense Ban versus Meliodas showdown. And as they clashed, the ground beneath them shattered, their battle shaking the prison apart, and even the magical barrier was broken, leaving Gilthunder helpless to retreat. Then back in town, the doctor and his daughter reunited in tears of joy. The doctor's wounds also mysteriously healed, and though Meliodas worried staying there might bring trouble if the holy knights found out and wanted to leave, the doctor insisted on showing gratitude, at least by treating them to a meal. And that night he prepared a grand dinner, everyone eating happily together, until a shooting star suddenly streaked across the sky, for legend said when countless meteors forming across in the sky, Britannia would face great danger, a sign of the coming holy war. And in a distant hut, when you meet a companion not seen in 10 years, would you really greet them in such a familiar way? But before that, Meliodas and the others had already reunited with Ban in prison and set out toward their next destination, the city of the dead, to find King. Yet when they arrived, they found only a desolate village. So Meliodas decided to open a shop to earn money while collecting information about King. But as he assigned tasks, Ban disappeared and wandered the village, finding a little girl collapsed on the ground, only for her brother to mistake him for a bad man and charge at him with a pitchfork, until the sister explained and the boy bowed his head in apology, saying how could he make amends? But Ban told him some crimes can never be atoned. And suddenly, another figure appeared, someone who seemed to know Ban very well, though Ban could not remember him. But the man said it didn't matter. What mattered was that Ban had killed the saint of the Fountain of Life for selfish desire to gain immortality, and without another word they fought fiercely, neither willing to yield. And just as Ban prepared to unleash his ultimate move, Meliodas appeared and stopped him, Diane arriving right after, and when they looked to the sky they saw a boy, King, whom Diane greeted warmly, but he said nothing and turned away. And later at the inn, Ban cooked a table full of food for the two children, in exchange for them telling him how to reach the city of the dead. But Meliodas insisted there was no need now that they had already found King, yet the boy revealed that very child had also asked for the way, explaining that the city of the dead was a place where souls of the dead lived, guiding people there through memories. And suddenly in the empty field, flowers bloomed and petals swirled into a vortex. King slipped through it, and another world appeared before them, the city of the dead. Though no one knew whose longing had opened the entrance, Ban suddenly saw the vision of a young girl, a woman who had ended her own life by piercing her heart to enter the dead's realm. And as the entrance opened, King slipped inside too, burning with hatred for Ban. Blocking his path, Ban tested him with a few grabs and confirmed it was indeed King, so he struck without holding back. But King dodged, and admitted he didn't want to reunite under such feelings. Recalling that 10 years ago, accused of treason, he had returned to his hometown only to find it turned to ashes. And back when they were companions, he hadn't paid much attention to Ban being human, never knowing his immortality came from killing the saint and drinking from the fountain. And Ban asked why he knew about that woman, only then realizing King was here for revenge for his sister. But Ban, confident in his immortality, thought King could do nothing, not knowing about the third form of the spirit spear, which appeared and pierced him, causing his body to petrify. And King had long awaited this moment, expecting Ban to tremble before death, but Ban only smiled without regret. While elsewhere, Meliodas and the others searched, encountering the holy knight Jericho, who suddenly attacked, blasting Elizabeth away. And Meliodas told Hawk to take Elizabeth to safety while she and Diane fought. But as Hawk thought they were safe, Diane collapsed, luckily caught by Meliodas. And Jericho mocked her before Diane clasped her hands and trapped her in a sand vortex, able to turn even diamonds to sand, but Jericho easily escaped and mocked them further. Meliodas struck the ground with bare hands, creating a quake. But Jericho scoffed at her for not using a weapon, and when Meliodas unleashed her full counter, Jericho cleverly minimized her magic to avoid damage. Then the story shifted to the past of the Fountain of Life, which grants immortality, protected by the Saint Elaine, who repelled all who sought it, and one day, Ban climbed the sacred tree and found the fountain, only to see a little girl who turned out to be Elaine. And though she tried to drive him off again and again, no matter how many times he was blasted away, Ban stubbornly climbed back, always somehow surviving by chance, until Elaine realized even the forest itself seemed to protect him. And finally, as Ban nearly reached the fountain, she bound him with branches and told him if the fountain was stolen, the forest would die. But when she read his heart, she realized he was sincere. So she released him, and as they exchanged names and spent 7 days together, Elaine found herself wishing Ban wanted her instead of the fountain. And Ban told her he truly did, since only she listened to him. And wanting to free her from duty, he promised to bring her brother to guard the forest so she could be free, and moved, Elaine embraced him. But tragedy struck as the demon clan attacked, burning the forest. Ban fought fiercely, ripping out demon hearts. Yet Elaine warned each demon had many hearts, and they were crushed together. And before dying, Elaine tried to make Ban drink the fountain, but he refused, until she tricked him and poured it into his mouth, granting him immortality and giving him the last seed of the forest to plant elsewhere, smiling happily as she asked him to say that last line to her once more. And later, King petrified Ban to make him suffer forever. But as he left, a light appeared and Elaine's spirit came, kissing Ban and breaking his petrification. King heard her voice but could not see her, because in the city of the dead, only mutual longing allowed souls to meet. And Ban revealed he had always known King was Elaine's brother and even provoked him into stabbing him. And elsewhere, Meliodas and Diane still struggled against Jericho, until she blasted Meliodas with fire, flattening her. And as the battle dragged on, the group scattered, Jericho mocking them, until King's spirit spear intercepted, its speed and power unmatched. For when King fought for others, for his sister and for comrades, his strength was limitless. And though Jericho pressed close to attack, Meliodas unleashed full counter and blasted her out of the city of the dead. And just then, their bodies glowed as the realm expelled the living, bidding farewell. Nice to meet you. Goodbye, Elaine. Thank you, brother, for protecting Ban. Elaine, and in front of them stood the ragged man who had been executed 33 times but could never die. Ban, who found life boring until the day he was struck flying by a scruffy blonde boy, which excited him so much he decided to follow Meliodas, hoping to fight again. And earlier in Baste prison, they had found Diane's sacred hammer. But to claim it, they had to win a fighting tournament where victory was decided by knocking opponents out of the ring.